Hello. I just felt like talking to myself and playing some video games and smoking some now legalized marijuana in New York State. Is that, I don't know if Sony approves of that. Last time I was on, I said a word or two in a certain sequence that got me in my paid subscription, what do you call it, rendered non-usable. I wasn't, I'm paying for my online and all that stuff. And they just like, no, because you said a word we don't like, even though you're paying for it, we're not going to give you any refund for that time. We're just going to shut you down. You don't have an appeal. We're not going to tell you exactly what you said, but, it's not hard to figure out. And there's certain words that they don't like, in particular one that begins with F and ends with something like agate. And I was talking to my friend, just joking around, and they said, that's wrong think. You're not allowed to use those words. Big tech owns basically every platform and every method of speaking and communicating, and they have more power than the U.S. government because of that. Because it's all private property, right? So they can just censor anybody however they want. Which is a load of crap, obviously, especially since they're all protected from liabilities and such. But if they weren't protected, then the argument is that they'd be obligated to censor even more. But it's not like this is a binary proposition here, or, problem. There's other ways to solve that problem, which is to simply say, when you have a platform that is open to public and becomes, a certain level of usage, then obviously it's fair to say that your censorship rules should be very clear, very precise, and fairly applied. And if that's what you do, then that's fair. That's fair. You don't get to say those words. You don't get to say naughty words, but it's just not apply it with a political bias. And certainly you shouldn't censor people for saying Kyle Rittenhouse is a patriotic hero, because he is. The man is being vilified in the worst way. He's being called a white supremacist simply because friends of his in another state were being terrorized by literal anarcho-communist terrorists. They go by the name Antifa. And, BLM is a front for them as well. BLM is openly a Marxist organization. Obviously there's just your regular people out there protesting these things that are drummed up in their mind as these great systemic racial injustices, which they are not. But then there's the organizations that are getting given millions of dollars by people like Jeff Bezos's ex-wife and others, and Soros. Obviously, everybody knows about George Soros, the most evil supervillain in the world. This guy is behind rigging the election in 2020. He spent I don't know how many years basically spending as much money as he could and doing everything he could, pulling all the strings he could to get his people, that people loyal to his cause, elected secretaries of state in all the battleground states. Okay, see, I should talk and play. And And he did that, and he was successful. And basically, you know, they've been pretty much rigging elections for a long time, but then Trump came along and broke all their records, you know, broke all their expectations, and nobody liked Hillary. And I have a feeling that Hillary they might have just sort of thrown her under the bus, just said, you know what, you know, maybe we can use this to our advantage, and let's screw Hillary. But I think the truth is they simply needed a hoax like the pandemic to create the mail-in ballot scam in order to overload the system and get rid of Trump. They knew they were going to have to do it. I mean, the shenanigans that happened on election night, we all watched it. That's why I just can't respect people who were like, there's no evidence. What are you talking about? There's no evidence. Well, there's definitely evidence. I can't say it's proof, but to me, there's more than enough. It's obvious to me that they rigged the election, the whole thing. We knew they were gonna, with the whole mail-in ballot scam all along. It's just what they do. All right, I'm playing a game. Through fire and flames, let's see what this mission is. And so these people have whatever their agenda is, they have an interest in inciting as much chaos and division in American culture, which is, you know, clearly a bad omen for the world. The world has enjoyed an unprecedented level of peace and prosperity since the last World War because of one thing alone, and that is the American military might, dominance, and altruism. Ultimately, our altruism, which turned into this backwards thing where globalists are like, well, let's just, you know, ramp up this altruism until it's this self-defeating thing that destroys America so that we can knock it down and create this new world order. We can't have one big guy on the block like America messing this up. You know, there's too many things in America that are a bad example for our world order. I mean, all these constitutional rights, that's a problem. America has to be taken down a notch, possibly disintegrated in whatever manner is possible, and so that they can foment their new world order. And everybody's like, oh, that's globalization is a good thing. It's progressive, so therefore it's progress. And you know, these people believe that they're what's the phrase I'm fond of using, that they're the elite premier culture spearheading the progress of humanity into the future. They think that's what they're doing. They're not. They're the front of the line of the lemmings. They're leading us off of a cliff. That's all they're really doing. But they believe, you know, or better yet, they're the rats following the Pied Piper into the ocean. It's really a better analogy because I'm not following them, so you know, it's just the rats that are following them, the Democrat rats. When I was a kid, you know, a lot of, you know, Democrats and Republicans had simply slightly different ideas of what was in the best interest of America. And that's no longer the case. Democrats no longer have what's in the best interest of America in mind. They have what's in the best interest of their globalist agenda and their masters who own them. And that's mostly corporate, big what do they call those, special interests? But it's not. I mean, that's just kind of the front. It's really this elite cabal of supervillains, these, you know, super rich patriarchs, probably mostly. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a woman or two in there too, but probably not. It's probably all men. Probably mostly all white men for the most part, because, you know, it's just most likely, not trying to be racist, but, you know, I'm sure there's a few Semite persuasion in there, and I'm sure there's many who are not. I'm sure there's some Anglo-Saxons and some I don't know what you call the other group of white people, the Russian, Austrian types. I'm sure there's I don't think there's too many Russian oligarchs or anything there involved, because Russia pretty much kicked out the globalists back. I'm trying to remember when Hillary was all promoting peace with Russia and cooperation. It's because they were working on taking over. It was around the time Medvedev got elected, I think, or whatever, and Putin but then Putin took back over and became basically in charge permanently. It was an interesting thing because the way the media covered it, and it was odd. I don't remember it very well. I just remember Putin supposedly lost the election, but then he was still going to be like some high-ranking guy, and then something happened, and he took over again, and it was cool. We just went with it. But then when Trump got elected, Putin became enemy number one. Russia became enemy number one. Actually, before Trump did.
Already captured the command center.
They desperate lies to try and tie Russia to Trump and the election. I mean, it's the thing. That's what their hypocrisy just knows no bounds. They spent 4 years undermining Trump's clearly duly elected presidency, and I mean, he overcome their attempts to steal the election then by a lot, and he proved to be a good president. I mean, there were times where like, whoa, what's he doing? And it seemed to work out. It's like, this guy seems to know what he's doing, I guess, for the most part. But then he made a lot of bad choices with people who he appointed. A lot of bad appointments, just one after another after another. Barr turned out to be a snake in the grass. I mean, that was unbelievable what Barr pulled at the end there. But then I think Trump's biggest mistake, and if people are going to disagree with me here, I think his biggest mistake was throwing Pence on the bus, expecting Pence to do some crazy giant balls kind of thing, pull some kind of stunt. It just wasn't going to happen. Pence said it wasn't going to happen, and Trump just kept acting like, oh, Pence, it's on Pence to do it, and then Pence didn't do it like he said he wasn't going to do it, because there wasn't anything he really could do. I don't know. I mean, that was a moment where Trump really got caught up in it, and he clearly didn't have the support from the military that he needed to arrest the criminals, the obvious criminals. And I really kind of hoped all the way up to the moment of the inauguration, I hoped, man, he's got them all penned in. They're all there. All the criminals are there, all in one spot, and he's got the entire place penned off by the Coast Guard or National Guard or whatever. And I'm like, arrest them! Oh my God, this would be so epic! And that didn't happen. I got caught up in the hype, and Trump just, drove back to Mar-a-Lago, whatever, and that was it. And I'm like, wow, this just happened. This just hit a red line. Like, it's out in the open now. I mean, you got to give Trump credit for that, no matter what. He upended the iceberg to show everybody this massive globalist apparatus that's controlling the courts, controlling the media, controlling the medical establishment, controlling academia, controlling most of big tech and the multinational corporations. They're trying to create a new world order. They're trying to conquer the world. Literally global domination. If there's no free nation, there's nowhere to go. It's a prison planet. And that's what they want to create. They want to destroy the light, the beacon on the hill. They want to put that out. They want to kill the notion of such a thing even existing. And honestly, I think they're going to use an alien hoax to do it. As part alien hoax, virus hoax. I mean, this virus was proven. Statistics all show 99.7% survivability and getting better with herd immunity before vaccines were even out, and the vaccines aren't showing any improvement in people's contagiousness. That's already curbed by natural herd immunity. It had already been dropping. They weren't talking about it anymore for a reason. It was well before the vaccines were out, but of course they're going to attribute all these things to the vaccines, and the vaccines, I'm sure, are helping. I mean, they're certainly not killing as many people as the ventilators were, which early on, that was why the numbers were so high for a little while there, for a month or two, at the peak of this in April and May last year, 2020 there. This was because they were killing people with ventilators, unnecessary ventilators, putting people on them. It was killing them. And there's numerous videos on YouTube explaining this. Some of them still are up. I have links to some of those videos in my list, my favorite lists or whatever. I believe is there somewhere. So there's a nurse telling about her experience. She even hid microphones or used her phone to record people or something. She has audio of doctors and some video, but not much. But she seems oblivious to why this is going on, why they were doing these things. She uses the example of a Latino man in his 30s came in for shortness of breath, and he was worried that he had the corona. And she, in her opinion, felt like he was having anxiety and that he was just having a panic attack. But she doesn't know. I mean, but that was her opinion. Because he didn't have any other symptoms, he was just having, like a panic attack or something. But because of the protocols and all that stuff, they put him on the COVID watch list or whatever, and they put him in the COVID watch ward where they put all the people waiting their test results. Of course, some of those people are going to be positive, most likely. But by the time the test results come back, they're all positive because they've all been mixed together in the same ward. And this was common practice all across the United States. Meanwhile, they're telling us to wear masks and do all these things to stop the spread. They're doing everything they can to increase the spread. They even deliberately sent positive patients into nursing homes. And in some cases, not even people who lived in the nursing home. These were patients from like other things, like other caregiver things, or I'm not even sure. I read and heard stories, even here in New York,
the situation is very
where they were putting like
Marines have destroyed the defenses.
People from like care facilities, other government care facilities, not elderly, but like schizophrenics or mentally retarded people, handicaps. But they were putting them into the elderly homes when they were positive patients. They were literally taking people who weren't even in those elderly homes and putting them into the elderly homes when they were sick. They knew they were positive. They were deliberately killing elderly people. And then Cuomo, when he found out that there was going to be an investigation, he actively covered up evidence. And then, of course, this big scandal about how he sometimes said slightly inappropriate things to women, like, I want to see you eat the whole thing, while he leers like a predator. The guy is a sicko. He's clearly a narcissistic sociopath. I mean, the nipple ring thing, it's like, I don't want to judge the guy just because he's got some nipple rings, but he's the governor of New York, and it's like, dude, like, you're a freak. Like, that's just not really cool. I don't want to live in a world where it's cool that the governor has nipple rings. He's that much of a fiend. It's like, I think if your sexual proclivity is that pronounced, that maybe your time and energy isn't going to be best utilized if you're a governor. Like, you're going to be spending too much time doing things that are unbecoming of a governor, in my mind. And that's just an assumption based on the evidence of people I know who wear nipple rings. Men in particular who have 2 nipple rings like that, act like he does. He's a sociopath, there's no question. Most of them are. Most Democrat, in particular politicians, but most politicians in general, are sociopaths. The dumb ones aren't. They're just used car salesmen. They're just con men, your regular type con men. Some of them are trying to do the right thing and good things for their community, and they learn the game because they have to play it, or they'll just get destroyed. But what are you gonna do? That's the corruption. But it used to be a fair kind of fight. It's not anymore, and that change happened with Clinton mainly. It really started with Clinton, and then with Bush, it got vicious. The media got vicious, but it turns out Bush was part of it. He's a globalist along with his father. That's why you saw all those. They made such a big thing. They're like, oh, we're all unified. Pictures of him, Obama, and his dad, all together, hanging out together. For some reason, Carter wasn't ever in those pictures. He's still alive, I think, isn't he? Yeah, I don't know if that guy never died. Is Carter still alive? I don't know. Anyways, I'm rambling. I gotta kill these monsters. I'm not even sure what my... Oh, I gotta free all the prisoners, wherever they are. I gotta check out my gear. I don't even know what I got on. Oh, I'm getting beat up. I don't want to die. Then I'd have to reset and start from a few feet away. I should do a Void Crusade or something where there's like a real cost of losing. Dying. This game's really cool, but there's just a few things that really could have been done better. Like a lot of the updates from what this game was originally, big improvement. Gotta give them kudos on that. But all of the classes should have a movement skill like this. They should all have something like that, because I don't want to play any other class because none of them have it. Most of them don't even have any use for the button. And it's like, it's like, why? That's just so dumb. It's like this game was designed for this class mainly, and all the other classes were kind of an afterthought. And they didn't put a simple movement skill in. Big flaw. I'll pretty much never play any other class because of that one thing. And the camera angle, terrible. God, this is horrible. I mean, you want to be up here just so you can see this screen, because when you're down here, it's claustrophobic. You just can't see nothing. You're like, it's like I got a hat over my head and it's pulled way down. I can't look up. I can only see 5 feet in front of me. It's like, what? This is terrible camera angle. I don't know. I wonder why they did it. It must have something to do with the perspective and all the crap. I don't know. But I know it can change.
The prisoners are still alive.
Because you can get behind. You can get behind those guns, and
brainwash them into servitude.
It changes the angle while you're in the gun mode. I'll see if I'll find one. I'll do it. I'll do it. Do it.
Praise the Emperor.
Or like Guga says.
I'm only doing the
so let's do it.
I must find Draken. Is
so
he here?
That dude cracks me up. He's talking normal the whole time, and he gets to his tagline, he suddenly turns into an effeminate, like, homosexual, transgendered 8-year-old or something. Like, it's just, so let's do it. It's just like, what did you just do? What just happened, bro? Let's do it. I gotta stop. That's too much. Someone will say I'm racist or homophobic or something. Such a silly word, homophobic. But I guess in a way, it's true, because, you know, you're not afraid of homosexuals, but you're afraid of the corruption to society that's just normalizing antisocial behavior like homosexuality will have, and it's clearly having a very bad effect on society. We were convinced that these people were just born this way, which is a lie. There's zero evidence of it. Maybe a small percentage of them have. Maybe there is, but the rest, it's anyone and everyone is susceptible to the conditioning and normalization of sexual behaviors that are unhealthy, antisocial, antithetical to the social ideal.
You are a free blade, aren't you?
It's just the way it is. there's all kinds of levels of this. It's not hard to simply acknowledge that something's either a positive or a negative thing. It's really easy, actually. Just pretty easy. It almost always works. You just ask the question, what if everyone did that? It almost always works. It's like, well, if everyone did that, would it be good for society in the world, or would it be bad? And the answer is pretty much easily to see. If everyone was homosexual exclusively, well, you'd have to create this whole artificial system for people to have children, and then you'd have to raise those children, and somehow, I mean, for one, obviously, you can't have an exclusively homosexual society. That's impossible. It's unless a bunch of homosexuals all decided to get on a spaceship together and go somewhere, but then they would raise children. You would think, and then what are they going to do when those children become heterosexual and biological things assert themselves? What are they going to do? They clearly intended to have a homogeneously homosexual society, which is interesting. Considering the self-reference of homosexuality itself, it's self-reference in a gender way. It's the self-reference. It's a gender self-reference. And interestingly enough, the guy who invented the precursor to the modern computer, the Alan Turing, was homosexual, and he created his invention based on mathematical self-reference paradoxes, and he eventually was arrested and prosecuted for being gay, and was then put on hormones, which is, I guess, what they thought was the thing to do. And then the guy was like, if I can't have, if I can't be smoking the pipes, I'm just gonna stop living. It's just, life's just not worth living if I can't gargle the sausages, so to speak. Whatever, gotta have that meat, gotta have it, or it's just not worth living. I don't know, celibacy's not that bad, but he doesn't have to be celibate. He could have sex with women. Here's the thing, people act like the idea of having sex with a woman is abhorrent to a homosexual man as having sex with a man is to a heterosexual man. Like, no, it's not. It's not. That's a lie. Uh-oh, phone's going off. What's going on? Why is my phone doing things? Uh-oh. Am I being hacked? What the hell? Backing up to the cloud? What? That shit should not be happening. Ha-ha! Ladies and gentlemen, we may have a worm on the hook, so to speak. Processing or processing. Wheels are spinning. Feelers are feeling. Uh-oh, I'm going the wrong way. So exciting. It's very interesting. Somebody paying attention. Oh, hold on. My tinfoil hat is coming apart a little bit. You know why they really stopped using those silver fillings? It's because people could occasionally pick up radio waves and hear things. And now they're doing all this 5G stuff. And freely, this 5G stuff. How it works. It's just like, all you gotta do is, like, yeah, this is not really a good idea. It's a widespread, everywhere thing. Maybe, I don't know, man. I don't know where it would be a good idea. This thing's put out so much power. It's insane. They have such a short range because of the intensity of the wavelength. It just can't be good, you know, and I think these people know what, I don't know what it's going to do, but I have a feeling it's going to have some sort of pacification effect on people or something. It's going to mess up our brain waves or something and just make us confused and dumb and just want to do whatever they say. Because when you get confused, you're just looking for someone to tell you where to go and what to do. I get the feeling sometimes, I attribute it to my thyroid, because I get these thyroid storms and this brain fog, and I'm just like, what? Oh, where do I go? What do I do? Point me somewhere, I'll do that. Okay. I'm so stupid. I mean, it's insane what happens. But, you know, that's just me. What did I mess up here? Oh, I'm a dummy. Talking so much. Okay, I talk to this guy.
I must reach Draken's fortress immediately.
Draken's
You need to cross the city to get there, and it has become a ruined battlefield, crawling with armies of monstrosities. But don't lose heart, Inquisitor. The true gifts of the Emperor come at the most unexpected moments.
What do you have in mind, Sir Caradoc?
This is a quest worthy of the Crimson
Can't talk
Wanderer.
and focus
I will
on
take it
playing
upon
at the
myself
same
to fight
time.
my
It's
way through the
impossible
battlefield and clear your way to the fortress.
for me, because my brain is very male and not good at multitasking, I think, mostly. Whereas girl brains are, you know, they're good at multitasking simple tasks that don't require a lot of spatial reasoning and logic. And they're good at tedious tasks like that. They can do those things and just be okay, where a man tends to be, well, we get diagnosed with ADD because, you know, we have a really hard time doing mindless, tedious tasks repetitively. We lose interest and our mind wanders to do other things because that's what we're built for. We're soldiers and engineers and explorers. We're not breastfeeders and, you know, baby factories. You know, and you know, women are they don't have the same. Well, they're obviously physically weaker than men, so they have to have different survival characteristics. They're more emotionally adaptive. There's, you know, it's well known for, you know, women in situations where their nation has been conquered or occupied by the enemy. It's very common that women will just switch to the enemy, and because that's where they feel safe, that's where their security is, and they can adapt emotionally to doing this, you know, and and so in that way, that's a strength, you know. It's also lends itself to a deviant nature. And I think, you know, when women are unchanged, so to speak, like if they're just like, well, we have to have 50% everything. We forget actual merit. We're just gonna, you know, we're just gonna have to have 50-50 women and men for everything. And I don't know if that's gonna count when men start identifying as women. Is that still gonna count as a woman? I mean, there's all this stuff. Just it's a snake eating its own tail. It's insane. And when the president of the United States decides it's a priority to force institutions to allow men to pretend they're women and play female sports, this isn't leadership. This is a traitor. destroying our country. This is a compromised man who's either A, completely mindless, senile, idiotic puppet who's just happy to be in the driver's seat and pretend he's the president and do whatever they tell him, or he's literally compromised by other agencies who are out to hurt America. And you hear these people say nationalism's stupid. Who cares where you're born? You're just born in that country, so you think your country's the best? Because no, it just means I believe the space that I live in, my nation is a sovereign nation, and that in that nation, as a citizen, I have rights within the system, and also that my culture, that my nation, in its fundamental bedrock as a nation, its law recognizes the inalienable rights that are the rights that are innate and inalienable to being a human being, to being a self-determined person. Now, here's the thing about being self-determined: you can just decide, you can just determine that you're going to ignore and reject the truth. That's an aspect of self-determination. It's also part of being free. It's part of freedom. You can't deny a person's right to be stupid. But you shouldn't protect them from the consequences. That's the control. That's the system. You don't protect them from the consequences of being stupid. But that's what the left has done. The left has not only protected them, they've rewarded them for being stupid. They've glamorized being stupid and selfish. How many times I've heard people say things like the most important thing in life is happiness, and that, you know, whatever makes you happy is good. Like, no, that's horrible. That's so satanic. Like, no, helping people even when it doesn't make you happy is good. No, having meaning in your life. Meaning comes from doing things that last and help and promote and are constructive, and actual progress comes from those things and helping people. You know, when I was a kid, I was raised watching the Cosby Show. And pretty much because of the Cosby Show, black people were just people with dark skin. There was people with, I was a ginger. I had red hair, and there wasn't anything abnormal about people being different. I saw this black family having pretty much all the same normal problems as everybody else, and not constantly crying about their race. And it was occasionally an issue on the show, but most of the time it was handled with like, look, dude, just, you know, buck up and do your best. And stop crying about crap, you know? And look what they did to Cosby. They set him up. He screwed up. He basically sold his soul. And he tried to put out a positive message for the most part and do a good thing. But you're him, you're that guy coming out of the hood, coming out of, you know, low income, disadvantaged neighborhoods and whatever he grew up in. And now he's being handed young starlets brought to him, delivered to his door, and we're gonna pretend that these girls, like he was tricking these girls into doing drugs. I don't think so, you know, because he made jokes about Spanish fly years ago. Like, it's idiotic. It was like Spanish fly was an advertisement in every single comic book. It was just a thing that kids were obsessed with. It was a hilarious joke. I remember when he joked about it, I was like, oh my God, I know what that is, because I was always curious about it. Me and my friends were always talking about it. We just order some Spanish fly and we'll use it on what's-her-face down the street because she's got big titties. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? Uh-oh, I don't know. They're gonna have to someday. They're gonna put a little thingy that's gonna pop up on your screen and say, you know, you have 3 seconds to delete the last 3 seconds of audio before blah 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 is reviewed, and you face possible reprimand. You know, something. You know, that's what they're gonna do, and it's gonna be like a compromise. Like, oh, okay, so now we're gonna just totally let them listen to everything we say and do, so that they can. But then they warn us, and we're able to delete or correct or apologize or something before they reprimand us for wrong think. Bad words. Passive skill point. Where am I going to put it? I don't know. This is a horrible broadcast. I'm not playing the game. I'm just rambling because I'm fried. Got some new nuggets and they're pretty decent. Plus, I keep forgetting that I wanted to smoke a bowl, and I keep hitting my vape and my bowl, so I'm like double freaking tooted. Zip, zip. Anyway. So let's do it. Shit. This isn't what I wanted to do. Haha, you dumbass. Fucking, I don't care. Oh, I can't say bad words, I don't think. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. I just want to talk. Like I talk. It's so demoralizing. Being worried about what words I can say and how I say them. I'm not inciting any hatred. I'm not calling for any violence. I'm not, you know, it's like, I don't think anybody should be hurt for having sexual dysfunctions, but I do think if they try to corrupt a child, then they'd be lucky to have a millstone tied around their neck and tossed into the sea. And that's what they're trying to actively do. They're trying to openly and actively corrupt our children. They're trying to program them with critical race theory, Marxist, all kinds of Marxist theory, and of course they're trying to just tell little kids that, oh, you can just be whatever gender you want. You can just make it up. It's okay. And just ruin them. And then they're going to let these kids make these huge, monumental, life-changing decisions, and they're going to put them on hormone suppressors and blockers and whatever, and mess up their lives. It's disgusting. It's pure evil. The people who do that need to be prosecuted. Everybody who enables them, every doctor, everybody who participates in it, anybody who promotes it in the media, should all be prosecuted, put on trial, and the worst of them, the doctors who prescribe the drugs, should be executed. They should face capital punishment after trial. And the parents, I don't know what you do with them. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know if they should be executed, but because I don't want to deprive the kid of their parents, but I don't know, man. They definitely, I kind of want, the kid needs to be taken away from those parents anyways. I don't know. It's too much. You know, I can't, I'm not king, you know. I know some of you were out there that are listening, which is 2 possible people, maybe next Thursday, might be confused and think, oh yeah, he obviously this guy's the king, but no, I'm not the king. I'm a king in my own mind. What do I want to put it into? I don't think that's really worth it. I think I should put it into something else. There was something I remember thinking, yeah, that's probably not bad right there. I do a lot of slowing. Let's cough louder into the microphone. Yes. All right, enough. Complete 3 missions in a row without dying, at least on your level. Oh, I got 1 more to go. Let's see if I mess this up and die. Possible level. It's not impossible. See, that's another flaw in the game, okay? Don't label a difficulty level impossible. It's not even close to impossible. Like, that's a word that has a meaning. It means impossible. It's not possible. It's like, oh, but what comes after impossible? Insane. Eye of terror. Okay, whatever. But impossible. Call it hell like everybody else. Just call it hell. Don't call it impossible, because it's not. It's not. It's literally what? Basically the middle difficulty level. Impossible. It's just stupid. Anyway. They don't consult me. Because they don't know that I'm king. Because I'm not. Even though I am in my own mind. I am a king. King is something, I'm not entirely sure what. I always thought that line in the King Nothing song was, with your crown came nothing. That's a cool line. But no, that's not it. Where's your crown, King Nothing is the line. It's a good line too. Where's your crown, King Nothing? It's a good tune. They had some good songs. You know, I gotta say, this last album they came out with is not bad. It's honestly it's the best thing since Load. Better than Death Magnetic. Better than
this magnificent relic of our glorious
Saint Anger. Better than
down the unclean and the corrupt.
Wasn't there another piece of crap
I will
in there
guide
somewhere?
my knights to the very gates of Draken's fortress.
I can't remember. But I've heard like four tracks off of it, and they're all pretty decent. Day That Never Comes sounds like another, like maybe it was going to be Unforgiven Part 4 or something, is what it sounds like to me. Another one of these asshole missions. I wasn't even paying attention.
My house and became a free blade a very long time
They're kind of a pain in the ass, honestly.
I cannot give you a satisfying reason for my decision.
One good thing though is I can't die. So.
For reasons that I won't divulge.
I like the tank better. Run over these assholes. Sad that you can't talk a little crap to your buddy, call him a bad word, especially if you call him the C word. I probably wouldn't have gotten banned.
My oath prevents me from discussing my
Guess they prefer that. I don't know.
about our proud castles, the mighty ramparts, forges, furnaces, the ranks of our proud knights marching against the enemy. We've fought countless invasions by the foul and
I don't know why you're hard to hear. It's weird. Controller, battery dying or something. Where am I supposed to be going? Ooh, look at that. Yeah, I'm going right where I'm supposed to be. There's no stuff on these maps, so I'm just going to do the mission and get done with it. Oh, come on now, you're kicking my butt. Oh, this thing moves like a quadriplegic cow that's been raised as Wagyu. Quadriplegic Wagyu cow. The slob, it just hunkers all over the place. It's awful. Right, let's put this in the game and make them play it. It won't be like an optional thing in any levels where you might find it and jump in for a minute. No, we're just going to have these missions where you have to play the whole damn mission in the thing whether you like it or not. So some of us at this game company really suck. You're all dead now. I gotta go this way. And they really put these things all the way across the map from each other, huh? And this thing is super fast. Awesome. Boom, shakalaka. You're dead. Shut up and die. I better back up, but I can't because this thing doesn't do that. This thing sucks. Oh, that is the worst. Why isn't this thing dying, dude? Ranger. Alright, I get my butt kicked here. I don't know what to do. Oh, I gotta go this way. I need to heal, bro. Doesn't this thing heal? Oh, I didn't know if I hold this thing down. I didn't know that. It could just go on forever. Oh, this time I've just been clicking once. Because I'm dumb. But trust me on everything else. Still hate the camera angle. Whoa, about to die. Yeah, not gonna make it. I'm blown the heck up there, brah. Oh, it's alright. I'm good. I'm fine. It's all good. Won't even count as a death. Which is at least one saving grace for this funky piece of crap. Counts as a death, that'd be really sick. Have to do those 3 missions all over again to get that bonus. Have to play my video game more. Yeah. And it's automatically heat seeking, that's good. Or whatever. Seats enemy. We'll just walk through all this stuff, I don't care. Should take better care of your room. I guess I did what I had to do. over this crap. Hunger. Alright, you stick. You know, I think if a person commits suicide, because society won't accept them for their deviant nature and their weird sexual dysfunctions. I think that means there's clearly something deeper wrong with them, and that might be correlated with their deviant behavior in general.
I've been monitoring the local box
There's a reason 40% of people of the
we send out a special team on an assignment that they have to return. You should be more than welcome there.
what do you call it, post-reality? I don't know. Gender identity cult. Oh, you die. You just, I gotta fry him. This is a bad guy. He's a big robot and I have to shoot the big robot. But I think then that indicates that there's a deeper thing. People try to blame society for disapproving of bad behavior, and that people who want to behave badly commit suicide because they're like, well, no, I think those people seriously something wrong with those people to begin with, and it's probably related to their behavior and the things that they want to do that are antisocial, anti-civil, uncivilized. It's really what it is, bottom line. Uncivilized behavior. That's one of those stuff I was talking about. Which is why you see so many of these types among the Antifa crowd. They're just uncivilized people. They just want to destroy stuff. They just hate society. They hate reality. They hate virtue and decency. Why they hate Christians so much? Because they're demonic. I don't mean they're like possessed by spirits. I just mean that they're like they basically are corrupted people that have chosen corruption. That's the only way you can become that way. It's not a matter of intellect or intelligence. It's a matter of character. You can't be a Marxist or any of these people that fall for critical race theory or any of that stuff and be a good person. You can't vote for someone like Joe Biden
Soon I will place a teleport beacon here, so you can jump
and be a
straight to
good
the gates
person.
anytime you like.
Or actually, no, you can be really stupid and still vote for Joe Biden.
Rest
I'll
assured,
take that one back.
that I won't stray too far.
You can only be either stupid. Three possibilities. You can be you're really stupid and gullible and naive and don't really know what's going on. Or fooled by the media and thinking Trump was a bad person, or maybe you just generally just didn't like Trump because he got a little bit of a salty personality. Sometimes that's an acquired taste. I get that. But if you actually thought Biden was going to be a good president, you're stupid at best. That's the best thing that can be said about you. And he's not a real president. He's a fraud, and this whole administration is a fraud. We no longer have any valid form of government in the United States. And wow, gee, look, crime's on the rise everywhere. It's because of COVID, clearly. COVID did it. Yeah. If it wasn't for the government and the media pumping hysteria in everyone's face about COVID, COVID would have passed by the same as SARS and H1. There would have been a bump in some elderly deaths. If they didn't do any of the stuff that they did, it made everything worse. The masks never did anything. The masks were all just a ploy. There's psychological studies. They're hard to find now. And it's funny because I remember reading about this when I was a kid. That wearing masks, like a gag, I think part of what I read about had to do with having a gag. But it had a subduing effect that, like they had, what do they call that? Those kidnapped victims who start to like become enamored or whatever with their kidnappers and start to take their side. There's a word for it. I forget. I'm too stupid, too stoned. But anyway, yeah, I almost had it. It's gone. But before I lose my train of thought. So, that's kind of what happens with a mask. It has a muzzle effect. It has a psychological, it's like a security blanket, and it literally becomes one for a lot of people. There's a lot of people who don't want to stop wearing it because they like wearing it. They don't feel good about themselves, and they probably shouldn't feel good about themselves. They probably have good reason to not feel good about themselves. Or maybe they might just be, in many cases, it might just be insecure because they're unattractive or whatever. Or, they might have reasons that are not their fault to want to be anonymous or more anonymous in society and just be a part of the collective. It's a communist ploy. And to tell everyone you have this moral obligation, like you're morally obligated to the collective over your own sovereign rights and choice, because there's a 0.3% chance, if you are sick and don't know it, that you could pass it on to somebody else and they could die. So the chances of you being sick are, I guess, what was it, like 1 in 4 at one point? So 25% chance of being sick, and then whatever the chances are of passing it, which is, who knows, that's an impossible number. Let's just say it's 50-50. On top, multiply that by the likelihood of dying from it is 0.3% less than. This disease, when it first hit us, if it was treated properly, the death would have been controlled, and they wouldn't. But if they didn't change the way they count deaths, this disease would have had less than 40,000 deaths. I'm confident. I'll say I would guarantee, if I could prove it, which maybe the statistics will come out, and I think they kind of already did come out. The CDC admitted that it was only 6% of the official death toll were people that were directly died of COVID specifically. And I still don't even believe that number. But let's say take that number into account. What's 6% of 500,000 now? Actually, we should only take 1 year's numbers, but let's just go with 500,000. That's 30,000. Now here's the thing about the other numbers. They don't count flu deaths this way. They don't count any other viral deaths this way, but they probably will from now on, so that they can create a pandemic hysteria whenever they need to, and if they need to enact, new ballot laws during emergency pandemic situations, which is probably what they'll do. They'll take all the laws that they passed, whenever they're in question, wherever they get challenged, they'll come up with a compromise. Well, these laws will only be in effect during emergency situations like a pandemic. Oh, well, then we'll just, whenever we want to, we'll just change the way we count deaths, and then we'll label it a pandemic, and then it will say, oh, look, 1 million people died of the flu this year. It's a super flu. It's the worst ever. That's what's coming next, is a super flu. 1 million people are going to die. They're not. It's going to be the same number that always die. I actually literally had a conversation with a guy at work who comes walking in to my lab and says, oh, did you hear? Because of the COVID mandates, the flu is way down this year. And I replied, well, that's funny, because it doesn't seem to be slowing down the COVID. And this guy says, this is not a joke. You've seen the meme probably that's out there. I didn't create it. This guy says, oh, that's because no one's following the COVID mandates. You have to stop for a second and go, oh, okay, well, how do we get back to the flu is way down because of the COVID mandates? How do we connect this logic back here? This guy is oblivious to it. Doesn't have an ounce of shame in his statement. Doesn't even notice it. And I'm blinky at this point. I'm just like blink, blink, and I'm like, let me take another approach. And I say, well, that's coming from the same media that says there's no evidence of election fraud. And he's like, oh, you can't be that stupid. And I'm like, oh, wow. This guy just said, I can't be that stupid. This guy who just said what he just said. And I'm like, really? I'm not saying the election was, I mean, at the time I wasn't. I am now. I'm definitely saying for sure, absolutely, the election was rigged and stolen from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the rightful president of the United States. There's no question about it. If you pay any attention to the facts and what's going on. But anyways, regardless of that, let's say even if he wasn't, even if this was a legit election, even if the ballots, as clearly unethical as they were legal, and there wasn't a whole bunch of hanky-panky like blocking observers and shutting down the counting because of a water main break that never happened, and that's okay. That just gets glossed over. You know, everybody watched it. It was a national controversy. They're stopping the count, and this has never happened before. And they're blaming a water main break, and it turns out there never was a water main break, and that's Section D. It's like, it's not important. Let's just forget about that. Clearly, there's evidence. The evidence is in your face. It's obvious. How stupid are you that just because a person on the TV says there's no evidence, you just believe it? I mean, weren't you paying attention yourself? You hate Trump so much, your Trump derangement so severe that you literally, or are you just a liar? Are you just a liar? You're just going to deny all the obvious evidence because that's what you wanted. You think the ends justify the means, and you're not going to admit that they stole the election. You're just going to pretend like it's obvious. You're just going to go along with the lie. And that makes you a horrible, horrible person. It makes you the enemy of humanity. It makes you a monster. And there's a lot of monsters these days. Right now, they run all three branches of our government, and they're, as rapidly as they can, destroying the United States military. And that was my one thing. It was my one buffer. I always felt like the military's on our side. They're with us. They're solid people. I never really have to worry about, you know, the leftists really doing any serious harm, but now I do, because they're destroying the military. These recruitment videos are insane, and Biden's is openly pledged to basically make our military half female, and I'm sure he's going to pad those numbers with men in dresses, which is just ironic and hilarious and just tragic, all rolled up into one big ass spicy burrito. You don't want to eat that burrito, I'm telling you. You're not going to like what happens. Pepto-Bismol is not going to help you. I think I'm done playing for that. I'm going to go sell my shit to this lady. I think she's a lady. I don't want to assume her gender. These people are insane. It sucks. I have a cousin, and she was a sweet girl. I've known her since she was a baby. She never had any hint of gender dysphoria. She was always a girly girl. A little boy crazy when she got a little older, you know, not older, but like, you know, 7, 8. She was kind of boy crazy. She had a crush on my brother, and it was cute. And but then her sister developed, you know, and got really, really pretty, and she was as pretty as her sister, and I think she had self-esteem problems, and plus her father clearly favored his son and made jokes about how, you know, he wanted her to basically be a virgin forever, and he was always joking like that. You're daddy's little girl. I want you to be daddy's little girl, you know. And she went to college. She came back from college, and it was suddenly sort of experimenting with her sexuality. And first it was, she was, what was it, pansexual. And then for a minute she was non-binary, and then she decided she's going to be male. And at first it was like, okay, well, she's just gonna, you know, she's a pretty reasonable person. I know her. She's not gonna do anything drastic. Her father's gonna talk to her, and she'll wait. She'll, you know, before you know, she's not gonna do anything quick and drastic. And then just a couple of weeks later, like, they fast track this stuff. There used to be like a wait for operations, but within a couple of weeks, she had her breasts removed. She mutilated her body. And it's just, and she, of course, blocked me, and some of my other family blocked me on Facebook because I speak the truth. And of course, someone said to me, is like, well, maybe they want to be free of your intolerance. And I'm like, I wasn't blocking them. How am I the intolerant one? I'm speaking the truth and they're blocking me. They're the intolerant one. I wasn't preaching hate. I wasn't saying any harm should be brought to these people. Of course, it demoralizes them. The truth demoralizes fantasies and illusions and derangement. That's what it does, and it should. Because it's sick, and it's destroyed my cousin. She's mutilated now. And one day, this fake reality, this fantasy is going to implode on her, and she's going to be left with not having any identity at all. She's going to be left with just twisting in the wind, not knowing what she's done, what she can be, what she ever was. It's destroyed her life, and that's when she's going to kill herself. And I hope not. I really hope not. But that's why they do it. They don't do it because, oh, society is so disapproving. This society isn't tolerant enough. Screw you. That's like a guy who gets off killing puppies, right? Like, that's his thing. It's the only way he can be happy is if he can just he can buy cages and cages of puppies and just smash their heads in with a hammer in his garage. He's not trying to, like, do it out in the open all the time, but maybe he feels like he should be able to. Maybe he feels like he should be able to just take his cage of puppies out to the street and just smash their heads in right in the middle of public. You know, maybe have a parade smashing puppy heads. And, you know, anybody who doesn't like it is oppressing him and is intolerant. And he's just not happy. And he can't function at his work and he can't function at his job if he can't just smash those puppy heads with a hammer. He gets the chance to do that, he's happy. He goes to work, he socializes, he's a good guy. He gets home, goes out to his garage, and he starts smashing them puppy skulls with his hammer. And he's happy, you know. You know, that's enablement. And is it the same? Well, it's subjective. It's disgusting and horrible. To me, smashing a puppy's head with a hammer to be happy is obviously worse than making up a gender identity. But it's just as plausible. And that's the point. If we're just gonna change the rules and you're just gonna make things up, and like, obviously there's prepubescent children being put on morning shows that are drag queens hanging out in homosexual gay clubs, strip clubs, gay, you know, nightclubs, which we all know what goes on in those places. This is a little kid. And they're putting them on TV and calling them brave and stunning and all those silly buzzwords. This is pure Satanism. It's purely satanic. There's no decency behind this. There's just no excuse at all. And these people do it with no shame, not even a little bit. There's not even a hesitation. There's not even like a little bit of like concern even evident anywhere. It's all just enablement, encouragement, validation. And it's sick. It's so evil. Well, thank you for sitting here and watching me not play a game while I rant and ramble and barely complete any coherent thoughts. I don't know if I actually ever did, honestly. But I'm banned on Facebook because I said something about taking away the ability to convert oxygen into their blood for people who are of the communist persuasion. I feel with climate change and all these things in the world happening, and COVID and all these other things, if we simply ration the oxygen and just we don't allow communists to have any, I think that's the way to go. Get rid of them, most of this other stuff will go away, because most of this is them messing with our society. Communists have pretty much always been the enemy of humanity, and I don't mean the literal term of people who want to live on a commune on their own and all share everything. That's not communism in the world. Communism in the world it's not that. It's going to basically be a lord and vassal system. It's going to be a corporate oligarchy where they're going to run and control everything. They're going to own all the resources. But of course it's communist, so the people own the resources. Nobody owns them. It's just simply facilitated for the people by the collective. But really it's going to be the people in power, the people with control of the weapons and the guns and the laws, who are going to have all the luxuries, while the rest of us are the service people and the production people and the consumers that drive the economy and spend all our money and pay our taxes. They're gonna profit off us spending our money, and then they're gonna tax us also. That's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be the way it goes. And they're gonna bribe us with technology, with smartphones and TVs and video games and social media rewards of some kind, social network rewards and such. That's what they're going to do. That's what's coming. People are probably going to let it happen. And, I don't know if it gets us to Mars. I guess I don't care. I don't know. It's not gonna. It's gonna fall apart and everything's gonna turn to hell. See what all this left-wing stuff is, this progressive SJW stuff, all this gender identity stuff, all of it is designed to break our society down. It's not meant to be a future. It's not meant to be this progressive vision. It's just a weapon. And so if they succeed enough, they're gonna just it's gonna turn around real fast. They're gonna be suddenly putting these people in gas chambers. And honestly, the way things are going, I think they're trying to convert half the country into applauding the notion, so that when it does happen, it's just gonna be like whoosh. It's gonna happen so fast because they've been rubbing our noses in such filth and arrogance and degradation for so long that when they're finally done, when it's served its use, and the real villains have taken over, when they start cleaning up, let's use that as a term, I have a feeling our side is gonna applaud and think we've won. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna fool us into thinking we've won because they've gotten everything they needed. They're not gonna fool all of us, but I think they're gonna fool a lot of us. And that's why, a lot of Trump supporters, they're flip-floppers. Can't be relied on, but there's a strong core that are Trump supporters, not because of Trump so much, but because Trump's the only guy, and he's clearly been made enemy number one for the globalists, and so he's our guy. But maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe the globalists, I'm always reading into this reverse psychology into things, but maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe the globalists are like, look, we need to sort of catalyze these people that are going to be a problem for us, and we need to give them a figurehead. And so let's just take this guy, make him enemy number one, and that'll catalyze them behind him, and then we'll basically use him to lead them wherever we want. We'll get them to maybe have a little riot at the Capitol. We'll open the barricades. We'll let them in, and then they'll act like hooligans, and then we can get a bunch of those Republicans that are compromised off the hook, and they won't have to do what their constituency wants, and they'll have a good political excuse not to. And that's what happened, and it worked. And Trump either played right into it, or it was the plan. I don't think it was the plan. I think he played into it. I think he got caught up in whatever scheme he thought could work, that he thought Pence could pull off. And when Pence didn't do it, he threw him under the bus with a tweet, and that's when the shit kind of started. And so that was Trump's biggest mistake. Did he incite an insurrection? No, it wasn't an insurrection. That was not an insurrection. That's such a laughable thing. An actual insurrection is like what's going on in Portland. Literal insurrection. Nobody was armed, and the Capitol Guard, turns out, died of other reasons. You could probably say it was complicated by the altercation that happened, but we know BLM was there, and they're the types that attack police. Trump supporters are not the type to attack police. Of course, unless they're left-wing scumbag police. If you're a left-wing police, you're a Nazi. Literally, Nazis were left-wing. Everybody thinks they're right-wing. It's so dumb. You look at the history, you look at their quotes, they expressly said that they're the enemy, they're socialists, and they're the enemy of capitalism. They said all the typical Marxist socialist crap. Oh, but Hitler, he fought communists. No, he fought separatist communists. Communists who weren't loyal to his interests, his side. They're a problem. You can't tolerate that shit. And Hitler was a socialist. He wasn't as die-hard an ideologue as the Communist Party was. He was more of a populist. But he wasn't a capitalist. He wasn't right-wing. That's such a stupid lie. Oh, they believe it. He privatized all these government things. No, he didn't. He put his friends in charge. It's called cronyism, and it's completely typical of the left wing. Because here's the thing about the left. This is all you really need to know about the left. They're antithetical to the truth and to goodness and to decency, and they can't be honest. So if you want to identify as something that's the opposite of what's right, but you can't be honest and call yourself wrong, you simply call yourself left. You make it simply a bifurcated alternative. It's just simply another option, a yin and a yang. It's just left and right. No, it's good and it's evil. And the left, everything that the left sells itself as being good is a lie. All of it. It's always a lie. Oh, we're here it's about taking care of the people and people taking care of each other and sharing. No, it's not. It's about an elite group of people deciding what your ability should yield for the collective and what your ability is worth as far as compensation and what you need. To each according to their needs, from each according to their ability. And somebody has to facilitate that. So that's what it is about empowering a small group of people to decide this for you. You don't get to decide anymore. You don't get to negotiate how much your time and energy is worth and your skill is worth. You don't get to negotiate that. The government will. And for people who are weak and useless in general, they don't want, that sounds good to them. Let the government negotiate for me. I don't know what I'm worth. I'm not worth anything. I'm useless. So the government will get me a job. I won't have to compete. That's the big thing to leftists. That's what makes it attractive, is the lack of needing to compete. Because they don't have virtues. And when you don't have virtues, competition is a horrifying, daunting thing. It's just demoralizing to thought. When you just suck at everything and you're a piece of garbage, then of course everything the left sells is going to be attractive to you. And I have to say, I'm a victim of it. Because growing up, I just everything. I didn't have faith in anything in our system. It was all I could see was a mess. And it was kind of common for kids my age to kind of have this sort of theory that the world was going to end in our 40s, that we're, like World War III was going to happen in our 40s and stuff. And I even had a friend who wanted to make a suicide pact that I forgot what age. I think he wanted to pick 40 and that we'd kill ourselves. And I was just like, no. The same dude used to try to get me drunk and pass out, and he was a weirdo. Like, other people caught him looking up other dudes' shorts and stuff. He was a weirdo. He was a bit of a creep. And he's still alive. He's my age. He's 45, and he didn't commit suicide. So good for him. He had a few kids and out of wedlock or something. I think, I don't know. But we don't talk anymore because he's a douchebag. So, anyways, I'm just going to sell this stuff. There's nothing here I want. This is useless. Garbage. Okay. So, I'm hungry. I think I'm done rambling. I'm going to eat now and go to bed. It's bad for you. You shouldn't eat before you go to bed. It makes you fat. It's not like you're going to have a cramp and drown in your sleep or something. Which I heard that's a myth. Like, everything is a myth, and then it's not a myth, and then it's like, okay, you can't trust any information anymore ever. It's like, that's part of the plan, I think. Everything is just garbage. You just have to use some common sense for the most part. Like, obviously, if you eat a lot of food and all your blood is rushing to your stomach, is occupied by your stomach, then it's probably not a good idea to swim in like a river or a lake or something. If you're in a freaking pool where you can just easily get to the edge or get to a ladder, and you stay away from the deep end, and you'll be fine. You probably won't have any problems. It's stupid. Oh, you can't go in the pool for 30 minutes. Well, that's dumb. 30 minutes, it's still there's no change. The food is still in my stomach, being digested. The blood is still in my intestine, and whatever. It's all dumb. One thing I know about growing up is you learn to like the crust on your sandwich. It becomes the best part, just like they said. It's weird. So, with that, good night. How do I shut this off? Oh, God. There we go.